Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. I'm Mark Walker. This is a review that I have been waiting for, and it's Ion Fury. Now, it was originally going to be titled Ion Maiden apparently, but for obvious reasons that didn't happen. Now, strangely, a very small subset of morons were triggered by there being a female lead, stating that the entire game is a woke disaster because of it. Did I mention that they're morons? Thank goodness. They almost triggered Samus. In times such as these, nostalgia has become a welcome comfort. With the awesome Goonies reunion on YouTube, watch it if you haven't seen it yet, and countless games dragging the past kicking and screaming into the grimy 2020s. Hold on to your shotguns, this one's gonna be fun, but is it primary or secondary fire? Let's find out. Unhappy at the rude interruption to her drinking schedule, you take on the role of Shelley Harrison, a no-nonsense femme fatale who enjoys a tipple. Fair play to her, times are tough. After being rudely interrupted by alien and robot invaders, she sets about to right the unforgivable wrong of a spilt pint.
You're lucky I can't fit a grenade launcher in my bag.
Oh, remember those. Good times. Just as with its predecessor Duke Nukem 3D, you'll control the new protagonist from a first-person perspective with a vast assortment of lead spitters at your disposal. Say what you will about gyro controls, without them I have bob hope of hitting anything with Joy-Con, but as soon as you enable that sweet bit of motion control, then I'm away. Popping heads like, I haven't got a simile for that, but like this. With a variety of sensitivity options, as well as a toggle for auto-aim or not, you're flung into the world feeling ready to kick ass and chew stuff. But unfortunately, the game has other ideas, for Ion Fury is absolutely not a walk in the park, far from it. Of the 4 difficulty modes, anything above the lowest is tough, and that's just fine by me. While enemies aren't out solving equations, they're also generally not as stupid as those from yesteryear. For the most part, that is. Rather than face rush every door you're hiding behind, they might just loiter with intent for a bit. But when face down, John Wayne style, you better be quick on the trigger because my goodness do they know how to shoot. Of the various different enemy types, they each have a slightly different method of disposal, with some of the most powerful having a slightly longer delay before that first shot, or the aerial types, a real pain in my backside, being quite weak but very quick. And did I mention they're a pain in my backside? Each feel familiar in a, oh, the days when the enemy was always facing me because they're essentially a flat piece of paper way, but I do like the designs. With an 18 rating, you can expect the claret to be decorating the walls quicker than my wife in lockdown, which is pretty flipping quick to be honest. Close range shotgun blasts will eviscerate enemies, and with most weapons blessed with an interesting secondary fire mode, there's a good bit of variety here. From the ka-chunk of the shotguns to a nifty Red Dead style dead-eye targeting with the Magnum, and even a grenade that just rolls after fools until they inevitably become one, explosively so. Thankfully, with the level of difficulty, you can save your progress at any time. Annoyingly, for some strange reason, I didn't realise this until near the end of the game, so I was having to redo huge chunks. Your health doesn't regenerate, your ammo will invariably run out if you're not careful, and you'll die loads. Perfect 90s shooter. Level design, as you would expect, is strong but a touch dated. For the most part, you'll be looking for keycards or flipping switches, usually 3, to open up the next area, with enemies spawning at these invisible checkpoints to spoil your fun. There are numerous smaller details for the eagle-eyed player, and a shed load of references to pop culture. I did not hit her, but the one area I was most hoping to return were the secrets. Yeah, they return. Each area is crammed with them, the type where you'll be hugging the walls with the X-ray map still available and repeatedly pressing the use button, after which you'll stroll towards the level exit, convinced you've found everything, only to sit in stunned silence when you actually missed 9 out of 10 of the available secrets. In terms of replayability, the game has stacks for the completionist. Now, while the game features a number of boss encounters, they certainly dial the difficulty massively. I'm really looking forward to diving back in on harder difficulty modes, but there is the potential for frustration, as the jump can be quite sharp indeed. Now, I had to leave one fight for a day and just play something else before diving back in for another dozen attempts. It got that tough. And I guess some could argue that that's a failing in the game, that it's hard, but not me. If anything, it feels just right for my memory of Duke Nukem 3D on hard mode as a kid. And look, there's always easy mode, if that's your thing. So, other than difficulty spikes, there aren't many negatives that I can level at what's here. I can, however, wish for what isn't here. I absolutely love Doom co-op, for example, and having some form of co-op or multiplayer selfishly would have been amazing. Another issue I have falls more into the performance segment, so I'll talk about it there, but it does affect to a small degree the core gameplay, so it's going to take a little knock. I give gameplay 17 out of 20 overall, and the controls 19 out of 20. Authenticity is something that can very easily seem forced, but Ion Fury walks the line very well. With just the right level of familiarity and new, the towering buildings are straight out of that opening Duke scene, with the explosive entrance a direct nod to that. Now, my biggest issue with the Nintendo Switch version of the game is this: it runs at 30 frames per second. Look, it is locked out, it's very smooth, but why isn't it 60? It makes no sense to me that a game that looks like this hasn't got a 60 FPS locked out frame rate, and the reason it's important is that those extra frames allow for so much more control, and the game moves very quick. From the character run speed to the bullets, rockets, and grenades hurtling at you, it all requires precision to dodge and counter. I really do hope that the developers can implement in a patch, as in all honesty, I prefer playing it on my PC right now. Now, with all that whining aside, the build engine is killing it on the modern era. Who would have thought that this would have happened? It's the type of visuals companies try to achieve using modern techniques, and it just never quite looks right. Sound effects are perfect, chunky, and with a ton of repetition from the grunts and a looped death cry for many, as well as chunks of body that will move as you walk over them, footprints of blood, exploding walls, enemies spinning out and screaming as they crash off into the distance. Yes, please. The backdrop to all of this is a soundtrack produced by Jarkko Rotzen, who, for the most part, does an excellent job. There were a couple of crazy repetitive tracks at the beginning, but again, just close your eyes for me for a minute and think back to the soundtrack after the "Damn, those alien bastards just shut up my ride." You can hear it, can't you? You can still hear it. Listen, and there's no doubt it was a lovely little surprise to hear John St. John voicing the lead villain, aka the original voice of Duke. What a nice touch. And the voice actor who plays Shelly cracks out the one-liners, which, much like the whole game, feel appropriate and rarely forced.
Sorry about the mess.
AKA they're not cringy. So can I complain too much of a little repetition in this sequel? Nah, not really. Visuals achieve exactly what they set out, bar the 60 FPS and one or two tiny little visual glitches, but overall they're pretty much on point. They score 18 out of 20. While the audio, it is great. From sound effects to voice acting to the music, everything's authentic and scores 19 out of 20. With a normal price of $19.99, but with an introductory discount of 15%, Ion Fury is well worth your money. But just as with all these things, make sure the slight drawbacks of the Switch version, such as a locked out 30 FPS rather than 60, aren't too much of an issue for you. Everything does look cracking in handheld, and the addition of proper gyro controls is brilliant with the Joy-Con detached, swings and roundabouts. The game will take a decent 8 to 10 hours to finish, and if you want to dig through each stage for those hidden areas and get 100%, then you're going to take a lot longer, trust me, unless you use a guide or a cheat, or both. That's very 90s, isn't it? Currently, the Nintendo Switch is the cheapest place to buy the game, with the current discount. Hang on, did I just read that right? That's definitely a first. Lovely stuff. I base value on the whole experience and what the game brings to the Nintendo Switch, and any gamer who appreciates labours of love. For me, value scores 18 out of 20.
This is a public service announcement. Return to your homes or face death. We're taking over.
Ion Fury is exactly what I hoped it would be, a true sequel to Duke Nukem 3D, crafted by many of the same minds, voices, and pixels that powered that legendary game. Yes, I miss Duke a little, but Shelly holds her own, usually shotgun, but she holds it well. Ion Fury scores a SwitchUp score of 91%. Look at that. The game came out, Duke Nukem, in 1991. It was meant to be. A big thanks to all our patrons and every subscriber who watches the channel. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya! I should do that in Duke's voice. Damn. See ya! Absolutely terrible.